Hello. So I wanted to say thanks to Antichrist Magazine for letting me do this interview for them. And with that, I'll jump right into it. Feels kind of weird here just talking into the computer, but just bear with me on that. So the first question is please introduce your band to our subscribers. And I'm the band. It is a solo project. I used to play in a death doom band, Sorrow, which was back in the early 90s. So this project actually started many, many years ago. After Sorrow broke up, we had two records on Roadrunner. We got dropped from Roadrunner when they dropped most of their death metal bands. And I just decided to start writing a lot of music on my synth and basing it on intros and interludes on a lot of the death and black metal albums at the time. And I really enjoyed those musical passages, so I decided to create a whole album with just those types of songs on it. But it wasn't just atmospheric. I wanted it to still be heavy, so I added drums to it, and they were basically your typical death and doom drums to it. The melodies probably have a little black metal into them, but there were no guitars and no vocals on it. So when I put out an album back in '96, it was called Life is a Near-Death Experience. That was an all synth CD, but it kind of fell through the cracks. I sold a couple of hundred copies of it, but because it was between so many different genres, it was kind of like hard to kind of push too far. And I put that on hold. And in the meantime, I had a record store, a record label, and I was doing a lot of mastering for people on CD to master their CDs, and I started getting into CD manufacturing. So I kind of got sidetracked writing music for a while. But then after a couple of years, I didn't have the record store anymore. I closed up the record label, and I wasn't doing the CD manufacturing. Obviously, CDs started to kind of go away, and I decided that I'm going to get out of that. So at that point, I started writing music again for Journey into Darkness, and I wanted it to be a lot heavier, though. I decided that I didn't want it to be all synth at the time. I wanted some guitars and some vocals, and to kind of make it, I guess, more of a traditional symphonic black metal or death metal, because there's a lot of elements in there between all the different genres. But at the same time, I didn't want to lose the complete synth or atmospheric that I had started with the original stuff. But I did add the guitars and vocals later, and that was it. So that's sort of a long-winded introduction. And the next thing is, what is the meaning behind the band name? Well, the name Journey into Darkness is really basically what I want people to feel as they listen to the music. So the music itself is dark and a bit sinister. And so when you listen to it, I'm hoping that people take that journey into darkness with me as they listen to the music. And can you tell us a little bit about Multitudes of Emptiness? Okay, so after I started writing all the music again, about 2 years ago, I got really, really serious with it and decided I'm going to put out an album. And I needed to brush up on my mixing and mastering because everything was done. I did everything in-house, in the box, sort of. So it was all direct in. Everything was directly recorded, and all the arrangements and everything I had done myself. So that took me a while. The writing of all the music took at least a year, and then it took me several months of mixing and remixing, and then the mastering to come up with the final product. And the vocals I didn't do. I had to get someone else to do them. His name is Jay Double Rice, if I'm pronouncing that correct. I hope I am. Okay, so the next question is, can you talk about the lyrics on the release? And I feel that the lyrics are important. They add an extra dimension, and sort of like the sum of the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, so that you have good lyrics. It really adds extra emotion to the music. So the lyrics range basically from the self-destructive nature of humanity and how humans are kind of cold and dark, but also the emptiness and the insignificance of humanity and life in general in the universe, and then how big the universe really is and how small we really are. And can you tell us a little bit about the album cover art? Well, again, I was trying to look for something that would convey the emptiness of not only the universe physically, but emotionally, how we sometimes can feel very empty inside and that life really doesn't have much meaning to it. And the universe itself, there's no real meaning to anything. And it's life is sort of a random event. And I wanted to cover that, kind of conveyed both the emotional and physical aspect of that, which wasn't really easy, but I had this idea of sort of a shell of a person who was sort of hollow, and sort of having them almost fade away, or evaporating into the nothingness of space. And I had given that idea to the artist, and his name is John Prayogi. Hope I'm pronouncing that one correct also. And he's done a couple of different bands, album covers. He's not as well known as some of the other artists, but he does really phenomenal work. And when I looked at his style, it was just right on. And I gave him the idea, and he came to me with a rough sketch, and it was 90% right away. And he finished it up, and I'm really excited with the cover art that he did. It's very emotional and intense, and I love it. So thanks, Johnny. And do you think it's important to have a label deal? You know, these days the label obviously is not really as important as it used to be. And I mean, I have a kind of a shitty experience with Roadrunner, but that was a very long time ago. And the labels these days, I think, tend to be a little bit more in tune with the music, and they really want to promote the music, I would think. But I think you can get by without a label. I did hire a PR firm, Grand Sounds, and they've done a really good job. As far as the manufacturing goes, well, CDs obviously are not as important as they used to be. So if you're going for just digital, you don't necessarily need a label, but at the same time, I guess a label does help with the promotions. And if you want to get any merchandise manufactured, they can offset the cost of that. They could also help with distribution. So I'm sort of mixed on that, and I'm not sure for the next album if I will go for a label or not. I'll think about it. And the next question is, are you going to complete the lineup for live gigs? And that's a quick, easy answer, and that's a no. I'm not going to be playing out live. I did it many years ago, and I'm not going to be doing that. And any new music that has impressed you? This is a tough question, and I'm going to cop out on this. And I'm not going to mention any bands. And the reason is there's so much good, amazing music that comes out that it's almost on a weekly basis that something comes out and I'm like, I really like this and I enjoy listening to it. And then a week or 2 weeks or maybe a month later, I'm on to another 1 or 2, 3 bands. And I guess I'm guilty, as most people are these days, where you listen to the music and you love something, but there's just something else comes along and that gains your attention for the week or for the month, and then you're on to listening to other stuff. So the number of bands that I enjoy just keeps growing and growing. It's sort of like a Fibonacci sequence where you got to add all the prior numbers and all the prior releases to the new releases. And quickly, it's good and bad. For the bands, it's kind of bad because you have so many other bands out there. But it's great as someone who loves to listen to music because you have such a huge choice of music out there. So I'll move on. And how do you feel about COVID-19 and the pandemic, and how will it affect the music scene? Well, obviously, it's affected it greatly. There are no live shows at this point. But I guess if there's anything good that can come out of it, I would say that people can now see virtual concerts. And I think that even after the pandemic ends, and it will end eventually, and people can go back to, going to shows and not worrying about getting sweat all over them. The fact that you can do virtual concerts, I think that'll kind of go beyond it. And I think that'll stay around and stick around. And I also think, which is pretty neat, that bands can now rehearse and not necessarily be in the same room anymore. So I think the idea, and I guess the technology is out there now for people to do that. So the one thing that came out of this is that the virtual aspect of it, and I think that won't go away. Can you tell us a little bit about your local music scene? I'm split. I spend some time in Florida and I spend some time in New York, and they're both populated areas, and they both have tons of shows going on. There's a lot of people who listen to the music, but honestly, I don't go to shows anymore. I haven't gone to a show in about 10 years, and there's a few reasons, but the main reason is my ears are kind of shot. I have a pretty bad case of tinnitus, and I'm starting to lose hearing. I'm starting to lose some of my hearing, and honestly, I would rather use what's left of my hearing to write and create music and mix music rather than going to shows. That's pretty much it. So, what are the future plans for Journey into Darkness? Well, is to continue writing music. Right now, I have a couple of songs written already for the next album. I don't know when that release will be, but I definitely plan to continue writing music. I love it. Every time I write a new song, I get really excited about it. So while I still have that excitement in me, I'll continue to write music. And that's pretty much it. So thanks to Antichrist Magazine for letting me do this interview again. And that's it. Take it easy, man.